Hello again, folks. I'm doing a voiceover on this for a change. Was out on Sunday doing Bikesafe course, which I found very useful. So what we have is two riders go out with a Garda bike rider. He monitors the first bike. You go out for a spin. You then stop and then switch over. So in this instance, the other biker went first, and I got to follow along, which gave me the ability to capture some decent video on this. So I found the course absolutely brilliant, and they talk to you about things like filtering up through traffic, watching for junctions, doing your lifesaver, and how to use the road as best you can. So I've edited this down from an hour and a bit worth of video to just 40 minutes. So hopefully it'll give good overview of what happens, what we saw, what we did, and hopefully it might help some people learn. Now, obviously, as you can see, I got stuck in a bit of traffic and wasn't going to rush things, taking it easy. I could still see them up ahead, so I knew where we were going. So I just sat back, let the traffic flow until I could find a nice break in traffic to skip up ahead. So filtering is definitely one of the modules you cover on the ride out, which is commented on. And it's kind of how to pick your way through city traffic as best you can. One of the things is always at junctions, keep an eye out for traffic coming up your inside, your outside, other bikes, mopeds, cyclists, pedestrians crossing through traffic, never mind at the lights, and good old cyclists just skipping through red lights and cutting straight across the traffic line. And one of the things you're always taught to do is do your lifesavers just as you pull out to watch out for people skipping up your inside or outside. Now, I'm no expert rider, and I'm certainly not going to comment or criticize the rider in front, but there will be one or two things during the day on this ride that are worth noting and that we can all learn from. So it was a relatively normal Sunday morning, absolutely beautiful day to get out on the bike. Sun was shining nice and warm, very little breeze. So one thing you're told at the start of the day is it's going to be a ticket-free day unless you do something insane. One of the things that's encouraged is to make progress through traffic. Don't get boxed in, don't sit alongside vehicles, make your way up through traffic. You don't want to make yourself a vulnerable user on the road. And one thing you will notice from time to time, the guard will move inside, outside, and even out a bit further just to keep an eye on the rider's positioning, progress, observations. So he's moving around a lot more than would be normal riding the bike, just so he can get a better view of what you're doing so he can pass comment on it later. I found it very constructive, and there were definitely things I did wrong and can improve on, and you get a good detailed discussion with the guard afterwards on what you were doing wrong, what you can do better, and also what you do well. So there are a number of categories that you're marked on or commented on. So those categories are junctions, cornering, filtering, overtaking, general awareness, speed, controls, signs and signals, and then attitude and responsibility. So the guard will pass comment on all of those, and then at the end you get a post-ride out recommendation. So my own recommendations are to practice left-hand and right-hand cornering. Watch out for hazards on the road, especially debris, dirt, muck, dust, and watching where you overtake. So traffic was fairly quiet here, so we were able to make decent progress through the traffic. And you make your way from Dublin Castle, which is the headquarters for the traffic corps, and you make your way out of the city onto some of the country roads and then back in again. So we went out along here all the way out past Sagart and Ratcool, and we take junction 5 off the N7, then go back around by the edge of Newcastle and over towards Salbridge, back along by Weston Airport, and then back into town. So there you can see how the guard is pulling way out just to observe what you're doing up front, judge traffic ahead, judge the road situation, and just keep an eye on things. So I cut the video every now and then just because riding straight and on these easy roads was boring enough. There's not much to be learned from it. So one thing that was encouraged was use of bike lanes to make sure you're safe and stay ahead of traffic. There were some points in traffic where I hung back a little bit and then just made progress up to make sure there was enough space. And the guard had an occupied day. He was keeping an eye on some of the car drivers. I had a word with one or two of them on the road. So on the day there are 8 riders, and then 4 guards to ride with you. So you do a classroom session first, and then it's an hour and a bit riding each. So you both get some time with the guard behind you observing you. And as you're always taught, we're some of the most vulnerable users on the road. So while bikes make up just less than 2% of road users, bikes end up being over 10% of accidents. Or I think it's accident fatalities. And there are a number of junctions and slipways and joining places where you just have to be extra observant of the cars around you. Especially around some of the junctions towards the to and from the M50. The guard didn't like the activity of this particular driver and had a quiet word. That's the thing. You're supposed to drive in the left-hand lane, and the other lanes are for overtaking. And that car driver was just sitting in the outside lane all the way along. Not good behaviour. A good observation of all the vehicles around you is very important to make sure you see what's inside, outside, in front, and even behind you. So you can make your decisions early enough, make your lane changes, and make sure other users know what you're doing and where you're going. So in our discussions afterwards about my riding, he was saying on these little speed ramps, instead of going through the middle gaps there, you should almost always take the inside line nearest the curb, which gives you the most space away from the traffic on the other side. He said it's very common for motorbikes to use that center gap rather than the inside gap, but it's just a lot safer to use that inside gap. So as we got out in the country here, you can sort of see that the center of the road isn't clean. There's a good bit of dust and dirt. And to just watch out for stuff like that, and safety is paramount. So ride inside or outside of it and don't ride through it where possible. So this is all taken with the camera that's mounted on the side of my helmet. So he did say that that can potentially be a hazard, and just to be careful of it. That's why they don't carry anything or wear anything on themselves. In the event of an accident, you don't want something like that catching and causing you a serious injury. Now mine is stuck on with 3M tape, and while it is strong and sturdy, I have knocked one off before just walking into something. So I'm not overly concerned about an issue. If I went down on that side, I think the camera will break away quite easily without causing any further damage to me. So when we got out onto these roads, they were a little busier than we expected, I think. It being such a nice day, there were a lot of people out on the roads, but these are good roads to get out on because some of these are nice and open and you've good visibility, and then some later on are narrow and you really need to be observant. So from time to time he gave us a bit of feedback at lights and junctions, and more often than not it was just to tell us where we're going next, where the next junction is that we need to take. Stick to the little route he had planned. So all the bikes out on the day took different routes just to get out on the roads. I think the Bikesafe course is absolutely brilliant and well worth doing. And anytime it is put up and advertised, the spaces are booked up very quickly. So you need to keep an eye out when Bikesafe is launched. There are plenty of Facebook groups that put it up when it's launched, and yeah, try and book in and get a place. So as you can see, that's a terrible junction for traffic. Traffic gets backed up there. But these are good little roads to get down. So it's kind of visible there that this center line on the road is very dusty and dirty. It's that time of year when the farmers are out ploughing the fields and dragging a lot of dust and dirt out onto the road. And plenty of other bikes out on the road too. So one of the things I definitely need to improve on is those corners. Staying out wide on the right hand turn and staying out near the center line on the left hand turns. As we were saying back in the classrooms, speed is very important, as is your observation, but 50 zones are 50s, 60 zones are 60s, 80 zones you have a little bit more leeway, and 100-kilometer zones you have a lot more leeway. While they definitely don't encourage speeding, they do like you to make progress. Stay ahead of the traffic, stay ahead of cars, don't get boxed in. I think this day we had most of the big issues that you need to keep an eye out for. Traffic at junctions, farm vehicles on the road, parked vehicles at the side of the roads, and then kids at play and pedestrians. Some lovely countryside and some great roads to ride out here anyway. Plenty of people out walking, plenty of cyclists about, other road users that you just keep an eye on. You're definitely encouraged to use as much of the road as you need to get good observation and be able to see as far down the road as possible. See any potential hazards ahead. So afterwards, when we did my review, after me being up front, he commented that I seemed to ride a lot better when I was riding behind than I was when I was riding up front. It's probably the factor of having a guard sitting right behind you and watching you rather than him riding in front of you and you being a little more relaxed. Not that I was riding bad when I was up front, but just he said I was better when I was riding behind, which was a nice compliment. And there are a few of these junctions that are just a bit of a problem to get through. All it takes is a nice friendly motorist who will let you go. I didn't expect him to wave me on there. I expected him just to continue and then me take the back position. And then I pulled over here to let him pass me, and it was just a little bit closer to that cyclist than I would have usually liked. So there's an incident coming up here shortly which shows the requirement for very good observations ahead, not just in the short and mid range, but in a further range down the road. So we come around these nice sweeping bends. We're doing a reasonable speed. Plenty of ways to look ahead, keep observation, and then these two cars come round. The next minute you've a kid running across the road. So yeah, it's important to keep your observation. Thankfully we saw the kid in plenty of time and were able to slow right down without any need to do sudden braking. It was relatively gentle braking just to lead off that speed and give plenty of space and watch out for the hazard. And then again, coming up here, we have another one of these country things to keep observations up on, coming round bends, and all of a sudden you have to come to a complete stop because there is a tractor coming up the road and all the cars have to stop around it. So this time of year, lots of farm machinery out on the roads, and yeah, carrying excess speed, and you just wouldn't have been able to stop in time there. An important lesson. So I think on this spin we hit the main things that you need to be aware of and be observant for, which was a very good learning lesson for us. And these days are designed to help you improve. They're not for criticism, they're for constructive criticism to help you improve, help you learn, help you be a better rider and a safer rider. And one thing you have to do is keep an eye on the guard and his indications. When he starts indicating left or right, you need to pay attention so you know there's a junction coming up that he wants you to take. And if you don't watch his indications, you end up going the wrong way and have to come back and rejoin. So then we're coming back up and we're going to rejoin the motorway to head back in towards town. So this is back joining into the M4, which then goes into the Leixlip Road and the Lucan bypass. Back into town. These are roads I don't particularly enjoy, but from time to time they have their uses and you don't have a lot of choice. You have to use them. So we were told it's important to make your space, don't get boxed in, and make progress, staying ahead of traffic. And your lane discipline is also important. And one thing we were encouraged is to do your lifesavers. Make sure you do your lifesaver. And this is a prime example why. So mirror, indicate, lifesaver. Oh, there's a vehicle on your blind spot. So mirror, indicate, lifesaver, and then follow through. Pull out into the lane. Get through, do your overtake. And then you should be back into your other lane. I think there was a lot of traffic up ahead of us, so we stuck out there and made our way in. So again, coming in back across the M50, and these junctions tend to get a bit busy, and you've lanes joining left and then lanes joining from the right. So observation is key, and picking the right lane is very important, and just make sure you're making your way through the traffic. Where at all possible, don't get stuck sitting in between a car on your outside and a car on your inside. Make your progress through so you're not stuck in a vulnerable position. And then back through the city, the edge of the city then, and time to do a little bit filtering again, making your way up through traffic. So it's good from time to time get a little bit of feedback at the junctions. Prepare for the next little bit. And sometimes you just need to be aware of making late decisions or being in the wrong lane and having to cross lanes. So we were in the wrong lane there and just had to make the right hand turn to go down along the canal. And always make sure you give plenty of room to oncoming emergency service vehicles, that they feel comfortable with the amount of space that they have available to them. This kind of traffic in these junctions are always busy, so I edited a bit the video chopping out good bits. And this is just him working out where he wants to go for us to go get a cup of coffee. And then he comes back just to tell me that there's a change of plan to our original destination and we're going somewhere else. I said, yeah, no bother, I'm just following the man in front, which is him. And he said, well, yeah, I'm just following the man in front of me as well. But we know where we're going, sort of. And he was very encouraging to, make your way through traffic, filter through traffic, get through those junctions. And where at all possible, don't get stuck sitting behind cars where you've cars front and rear. Now I've noticed on the video that it looks like his blue light is flashing. His blue light is not flashing. His blue light is just on. It's the refresh rate of the camera makes it look like it's flashing, where it's not. And as was said earlier, make good use of the whole road so you can see ahead, see the gaps, see what's oncoming. And this section of roadway, you know, when you get a nice gap, you can make progress ahead, but at the same time, that gap can actually close quite quickly. So you need to have your spot picked out for where you're going to pull back in. And I gave myself a good bit of space to find places for me to pull in, which meant once or twice that they got ahead of me a bit. I don't have a problem with that. I'm confident enough in my abilities that I could let them go and stay within long visual range, because on roads like this you've cyclists on the inside, cars front and behind, oncoming vehicles, and yeah, then there are other users, as we will see in a while, such as mopeds, delivery drivers, stuff like that. Yeah, an absolutely lovely day for it. Beautiful. I think it was about 16 degrees, so it was nice and warm without being too hot. And again, watching out for cyclists inside and pedestrians at junctions, and the joggers out enjoying their day as well. Here I was a lot more cautious than they were. They had a nicer gap up front than I did. I just took my time, and I was watching the oncoming vehicles. They made a little bit more progress, whereas I just stayed where I was. I was happy enough. I was in no rush. I wasn't going to try and push the oncoming cars, out of their lane to make space for me. I was happy enough just to make progress in my own time. And you do need to keep your wits about you, because there are delivery drivers like that who just fly up on your outside without giving a care in the world for anyone oncoming. So he flew ahead, and then he spotted the Garda bike and he pulled in, whereas I knew exactly what I was doing and I was catching up with the Garda bike. Again, give plenty of space to the oncoming vehicles and then find that gap. And having a yellow box at the junction just made it a little bit easier for me to get up to them again. So back in the city, up at Portobello Bridge. And we're gonna go left and go up and find a nice little coffee shop up here. And as I was slagging, I said, yeah, you guards know all the best spots for these little hidden spots for coffee and stuff. And he goes, no, never been here before. And of course you walk in and the guy behind the counter, haven't seen you in a few days, how are things? And he goes, yeah. You have to watch out for pedestrians who just step out into the road without looking left or right. So he got a blast of the Garda horn there just to get his attention. And these little roads and little roundabouts are good to practice your slow riding skills and observational skills. And lots of little roundabouts and tight roads. So that is one of the rides for Bikesafe. I'll hopefully go through the video later and put in my own ride. Take care, folks. Have a great day. Ride safe.